A very warm welcome to you, and thank you so much for joining our Homeopathy 24/7 podcast. We are going to be speaking to an array of international guests who will share their knowledge and experiences of homeopathy with you. We will discuss all types of subjects such as remedies, symptoms, and stories of health. No matter where you are with your homeopathic journey, we aim to inspire you on your quest to natural health and living. The podcast is brought to you by Greensmith, the founder of Homeopathy 24/7, which is a global platform connecting you with a homeopath wherever you are in the world, 24 hours a day. So let's get started with today's chat. Please welcome Mary Greensmith.
Hello, thank you so much for joining us today, and I'm really pleased to be able to welcome back Lisa Robbins. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you for having me.
Lisa, you're a homeopath and you're also an author. Tell me a little bit more about the new book that's just been published.
It's called Widdershins. I've got a copy of it here. That's what it looks like. And if you could see more closely, you'd see that that's the backdrop of Edinburgh behind Robin, my protagonist, and he's holding the strings of fate. So that's the book, and it was published in September of last year, and I debuted it in Edinburgh, in London, and in Florence to wide acclaim. I was very pleased.
Brilliant. Tell us a little bit about the book. So first of all, can you explain Widdershins?
Yeah, Widdershins means counterclockwise. Simple as that. That's and many people ask me that.
Yeah.
And it's about a man who goes Widdershins. Robin McFarland is a school teacher in an academy in Edinburgh. And when his wife suddenly dies very unexpectedly, and he's in his 40s, he has 3 children and has to bring them up. And he's so shocked and so devastated that he turned to conventional medicine to try and heal his back and his emotional imbalance, but it doesn't work. Nothing
No.
seems to work on the conventional front. He's constipated and both mentally and physically by the horse pills that he's taking, and his children are suffering. And in desperation, he begins to look at alternatives. And it is through the alternatives that he finds a solution to his pain on all levels. The book begins with he knows he's in trouble because he has 3 kids, and they go to the grocery store, and he leaves the baby in the shopping trolley and drives the other 2 home. And it's only when he gets home that he realizes, where's the baby? And they hurtle back to Tesco to find the baby sitting in the shopping trolley in the car park, just waggling his legs, waiting for something to happen. So Robin knows that he needs help, and he finds it in the guise of a Morag McCool, a marvelous nanny for the children, who restores balance in the same way that a homeopathic remedy might restore balance to a family that's very much at sea. And she does this through marvelous humor and good sense, and a few little magic tricks.
It sounds absolutely amazing. Tell me a little bit about why. Why were you writing this book? Where did this come from?
When I was living in the tropics many years ago, my children would come down with ear, nose, throat infections, as everybody does when they're little. And I'd take them to the doctor, the English-speaking doctor, and was always given antibiotics, which did work most of the time, but the children would become irritable, bunged up, fuzzy-minded, and the course of antibiotics usually went on for 10 days. And I thought, there's got to be something better than this huge interruption with many side effects to heal them from what's essentially a blocked nose or a throat infection or ear troubles. And I started looking at homeopathy, and I found at that time the only English-speaking homeopath, a Chinese doctor, on the island. And I signed up for his remedies, and my children were naturally healed. And that was the beginning. And then for many years I used homeopathy, but then I got more interested in, it's so odd, it's such an unusual and fascinating science that I got interested in being able to be a home practitioner. I became one using Andrew Lockheed's Family Guide to Homeopathy for the most of the time, and then decided to study it. And so although my first love has always been writing, and this novel is my second publication, homeopathy has filled my life with joy on every level. And so the book came out of my realization that there was another way, that one needed to go counterclockwise, that what I had been taught all my life, that one must go the conventional route, might work, but that there was an alternative that was natural, that was holistic. The second reason for the novel was grief, my own grief, having lost my father and my grandmother, and laterally my mum. And grief played a role in my life, and healing from grief is never easy. And so here's a story about a widow who needs to heal from grief and finds through alternative treatment that he can do so. Finally, I was lucky enough to live in Edinburgh for 6 years and loved it, and put the setting of the story there in contemporary Edinburgh.
Oh, fantastic. It just sounds amazing. And what I love about this whole idea is that we need lots of different ways to introduce the idea that there is a choice, there is something else that you can be doing with your health. You can be looking after it. And I actually came to homeopathy through a novel, through a series of novels. So I think it is so important, and I think that obviously a lot of our audience already know about homeopathy, and they are just going to be so excited about the possibility of reading, where there are references and things like that about, about that choice, about actually what does it take for people to think, oh my goodness, I need something different. And it doesn't have to be homeopathy, does it? It just needs to be open the doors and have a look.
Yeah. And usually, I mean, I'm sure we all find this, we homeopaths, that people come to us in desperation because they have gone the conventional route. And it's when it doesn't work that they come to us with a litany of complaints and, this isn't working, this isn't working. And so what we're doing for them is changing the perspective, changing the way they think. I mean, we don't realize it at the time. But one of the other things that I realized about literature is that literature can change perception in the broader sense. In other words, our patients come to us because they're desperate, because they haven't found a solution. But think of all the people out there who criticize, who say, well, there's only one way to do things. You can only go the conventional route. And I wouldn't dream of not, taking these pills because I'm in a complicated situation and I don't want to jeopardize what they don't might be benefit from realizing is that there are alternatives, and that even if they do go the conventional route, homeopathy can complement whatever it is they're taking to ease the side effects, and ultimately, hopefully, to begin to replace whatever it is that they're taking in order to put them on a path to better health.
Yeah, I'm just so happy, and I'm just so happy that we've got you explaining these things to people as well, people who, as you say, might not have considered alternative ways. So let's just talk about grief for a moment, because grief is a topic which is, one, hard to talk about, and two, there isn't really much that is available with Western medicine. And we know that alternative complementary medicines, whether it be homeopathy or something else, really can help Can you just say a little bit more about how it can help? What changes?
Well, if we're talking about, I think I think there's nothing worse than trying to read a pamphlet about how to cope with your grief.
Mm,
It's
mm.
it's like, reading the instructions about how do you assemble a bookshelf. Well, it
Yes,
doesn't work.
no,
There are no instructions about handling grief. In fact, you wing it, and you one day you wake up and you're feeling slightly better. What it does is completely take the rug out from under you. You lose your focus, your will, your interest in being here, when it's a very close loved one, and you find that it affects every aspect of your life. You're no longer able to promote yourself with confidence because you haven't got any confidence because you don't really know why you're here. And you're also um, unable to do the things that you never thought about. For instance, when I was filled with grief, my handwriting changed. I couldn't even read it. It was wobbly. It was uncertain, as I was.
okay,
Um, you wake up in the morning and you don't know what you're going to what you're going to make worthwhile about that day. So
uh,
it's a horrible, all-consuming feeling, and the only escape from it is sleep.
yes,
So
of
it's
course.
terrible to wake up the next morning. So that's the thing that I was very aware of that was going on with my protagonist here. I knew what he felt like. And so the question is, well, then how does one cope? And it seems to me, strangely, that the way to cope is not to go and buy that manual on how to assemble the bookshelf, but rather through art, through a novel, through a film, through a piece of music.
Uh-huh.
Because it's not direct, because it can influence in a very subtle way, and you don't even realize that it's beginning to change or heal. It's unconscious because, of course, if you try to assemble that bookshelf called guilt, you couldn't do it. It's fakey.
Mm.
Whereas with some kind of art, whatever it is, and I'm not, saying my novel's the best thing since sliced bread, but if it's good art, it will begin that healing process by subtly offering ways forward.
Yes,
So
yeah,
that may explain a little bit about what I saw as grief, and then how I saw my protagonist trying to cope with it. Um, through well, how I used that to try and get readers to cope with their own grief. I was in a group that H247 had for a while on healing for the taking caretakers for
mm,
those dealing with people that were close to death, and it was a fascinating experience. And I wrote about grief extensively. I'm hoping at some point to be talking to schools about grief, because that's the other thing. You can't have a talk about grief like, how did it feel for you? I mean, it just doesn't work. Instead, you have to allow things to emerge organically, and that's what I think art can do.
okay. And when suffering from grief, if we are to turn to complementary or alternative medicines, what are we likely to see? I mean, I often say that, to help each day be less overwhelming than the last, as good, because obviously it's not going to take away grief. But just give us some insight into what happens with your protagonist. What does he find out on his journey?
I'm trying to remember, maybe I've got it here. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's there's denial, there's anger,
Okay.
or and anyway, the point is he goes through her process. Yeah, on death and dying, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. And Robin, my protagonist, goes through all of that. No, I'm in shock. It can't have happened. And then anger, and then, you know, bargaining, and then depression, and then finally acceptance. And we all go through that.
Yes.
And so he does as well. And he's he's unable to help his children because helping them, he's afraid he won't be able to hold himself together.
Uh-huh.
He cannot bring himself to talk about their mother's death because it's too painful.
Yes.
And he realizes sort of the hard way round that he needs to heal himself before he can help them. And then he's able to have the conversations. I mean, he can see what it's doing to the children. He can see that his daughter is becoming anorexic, that his son is playing the same piece on the violin again and again and again, that his little baby, the one that got lost in the shopping trolley, has night terrors and is unable to and they're all being affected. And so
Yeah.
the question is, how does he cope? And in his case, when the horse pills don't work, and he even has, because he goes to the conventional doctor, medication for his son with the night terrors, thinking that, but they both get fuzzy-minded and bunged up, and it doesn't work. So he turns to alternative therapy as a desperate last ditch attempt to heal himself. And as we know, homeopathy is very subtle. He doesn't turn to homeopathy, he turns to a different alternative therapy. But the point is, there's a subtlety so that you don't even realize what's happening. And it doesn't, usually, it doesn't actually work on a physical level first. It works on an emotional or on a mental level first
Mm.
by challenging the vital force to spark the body to heal.
Mm.
It isn't the pill that's doing it, it's the energy in the body, which is hard to get one's head around. But anyway, so Robin um, goes, Widdershins goes counterclockwise in order to heal, and is able to think about grief, his own, his children's grief, through the embrace of looking at things a different way, which is what the alternative therapy can do. I don't know if I've answered the question, but you can ask
Yes,
me again.
yes, yeah. No, absolutely. So we are going to put a link, obviously, for people to have a look at the description. And I'm presuming that it's available around the world. Have you put it in different places in the
It's on Amazon, all the Amazons, and getting 5-star reviews, which is very nice. And yeah, that's how they can get it. And now working on other books, not so much alternative, but books that I hope will change the way people think about. Try to explain what an unusual world we live in, and how to heal. In the case of the new books, it's not so much about grief. It's news stories, one based in Italy, one based in Hong Kong. Having a lot of fun with those. But this book is very dear to my heart because my practice is dear to my heart.
It's just fascinating, and it's just lovely to have this opportunity to talk to you, Lisa. So thank you so much for coming in and sharing. I just want to ask you, obviously, because the writing is a big part of your life, and homeopathy is a big part of your life. And we were talking earlier about how once you start becoming involved with complementary medicines and homeopathy and alternative ways, do you think it influences actually our outer world as well, about where we live, how we live, every aspect of our world? We start to think in a different way.
Absolutely. There's no question about that. And it happens so subtly, you don't even realize it's happening. But for instance, once I started studying homeopathy, I took up yoga. It just seemed natural. And then I took up meditation.
Mm-hmm.
And now I practice sound healing, which is a whole new field for me. And the first time I'm working with my hands is very exciting. But all of this came from thinking differently, thinking outside the box, literally going Widdershins.
Yes, yes, of
I
course.
mean, Herman Melville said it best. He said, true places aren't on any map. And it is so true.
Yes, yes. It's inside, isn't it? And then you see the whole world differently. I'm very interested to hear about the sound healing. We'll save that for another day. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, Lisa, that was really lovely talking to you about your book. Thank you so much for coming in and sharing a little bit about it with us. Now, next week, I'm going to be talking to Alexandra Ross, and we're going to be talking about being a homeopathic student. So this might be of interest to anybody who's thinking about possibly studying as a homeopath and finding out how it works, what happens, where you go for college, how college works, and how that feels. I look forward to seeing you next week. Take care. I do hope you've enjoyed these episodes, and I do hope you can subscribe to our channels. Now, there are various ways for you to listen to our podcast or watch it on video on YouTube. So whether it's iTunes, Spotify, or YouTube, please do subscribe and please do leave us a review. If you leave us a review on these platforms, then more people will see our podcast. We just want more people to share the joy of homeopathy. It's a choice that everybody should know about. Please do everything you can to help us help more people.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode and look forward to listening to our next one. Please don't forget to follow our podcast on your chosen channel, and please do leave us a review so we can continue to share homeopathy with as many people as possible. If you do have any questions, please do reach out to us on any of our social platforms mentioned in the show notes. We at Homeopathy 24/7 hope to empower you on your natural health journey.